share a brief history of St. Brigid with all of you. St. Brigid was born in the year 450 in County Louth. Her feast day is celebrated here in Ireland, of course, England, New Zealand, Australia. So she's pretty incredible. The Irish storytellers, the Shaughneys, everything was oral. So the stories changed as they went along. Some say that Brigid was a goddess, and others say she was the daughter of an Irish chieftain and a serving girl. And both can be true, as the Shaughneys would tell you. She had three gifts. The gift of healing. She was magical at healing people. And this started when she was a teenager. And there's some wonderful stories about her healing. She tells of one man she healed, and she asked him if he would rather be king or healed. And he said, healed. Then I can be my own king of my own house. And she's famous for giving. She gave away some of her father's greatest treasures, his sword, just about everything he owned. But because of her miraculous nature, a lot of these things just came back, suddenly appeared back in place. And of course, the gift of wisdom, which she still shares with all of us today, the sense of poetry and beauty in the world and hope. Her sacred flame is still in Kildare, Ireland, and the Brigidine nuns have a wonderful spiritual retreat house with a Brigid well and a wonderful statue of Brigid. And the best thing, in my opinion, there's a tree with all kinds of papers on it attesting to all the miracles that St. Brigid has wrought. St. Brigid was baptized by Patrick, we believe. We know that she went and listened to him speak. But she, not to take it away from Patrick, had a lot to do with the Christianization of Ireland. She decided to be a nun when she was 18. Her father wanted to marry her off to a chieftain in Ulster. But Brigid said the only bride she was interested in being was the bride of Christ. So in about 468, when she was about 18, she became a nun and founded monasteries all over Ireland. And until this time, there were convents and monasteries. But she started a co-ed one, but of course she did, didn't she? Where the holy men and women would work together. And she was perhaps the first native-born saint of Ireland. Let me tell you my favorite story of St. Brigid. It's the story of the time she went to see the king, and the king was exceedingly stingy. So you want to know what she wanted, and she wanted, some gifts for her charities. She was always thinking of the poor, and he reneged. He was not interested. So she stood there and she said, would you give me just as much land as my cloak could cover? And he just wanted to get rid of her. And he said, yes. So she spread her cloak, and she had 4 of her sisters run towards each corner of the compass. And then other pious women picked up the cloak and spread it out until it was at least a mile in every direction. And the king panicked for a moment and said, Brigid, what are you about? And she said, I'm about, or rather my cloak is about, punishing you for your meanness and stinginess to the poor. He said, stop right now. I will be generous with you now and give you a fine plot of land, and I will promise to be generous in the future. Well, Brigid was happy to hear this. And in the future, if he started to be too tight with his purse strings, she would just remind him of the miracle that her cloak could bring on him. And speaking of her cloak, it would get soaked with water, and she would just put it out on a sunbeam, and that sunbeam would stay there until her cloak was dry. And you know the Irish weather, so that in itself was a huge miracle. So that's my little story of St. Brigid, and I want to wish every one of you a happy St. Bridget's Day.